So, this happened last weekend, and I'm still trying to process it. I'm 24, living with my parents while I save up to move out, and I've been dating my boyfriend, Jake, for about 6 months. He's 26, works as a mechanic, and is honestly the sweetest guy, super chill, funny, and we just click. My parents have met him a few times, and while my mom adores him, my dad's always been a little standoffish. He's one of those tough guy types, ex-military, doesn't say much, but you can tell he's sizing Jake up every time he's around. I figured it was just a dad thing, you know? Anyway, last Saturday, my parents were supposed to be out all day. Mom had some work event, and Dad was tagging along to help set up. They left around 10 a.m., and I texted Jake to come over. We don't get a ton of alone time since I'm still at home, and his roommate's always around at his place. He showed up around noon with a pizza, and we hung out in the living room for a bit, watching Netflix, eating, just vibing. One thing led to another, and we started making out on the couch. It was playful at first, but then it got intense. We decided to move upstairs to my room because, well, why not? The house was empty, or so I thought. My room's on the second floor, and it's not like I was expecting anyone to barge in. We were in the middle of things, clothes off, totally caught up in the moment, when I heard this loud thud downstairs. I froze, but Jake just laughed it off and said it was probably the cat knocking something over. I don't have a cat. My heart started racing, but before I could say anything, we heard footsteps, heavy ones, coming up the stairs. Jake's face went from chill to oh shit in about 2 seconds, and I grabbed a blanket to cover myself just as my bedroom door swung open. There stood my dad, all 6 feet 2 inches of him, in his stupid flannel shirt, holding a toolbox like he'd just come from fixing something. His face went from confused to pure rage in about half a heartbeat. I screamed, "Dad, get out!" But it was too late. He zeroed in on Jake, who was scrambling to pull his jeans back on, and bellowed, "What the hell is this?" Jake, bless him, tried to stammer out an apology. "Sir, I'm so sorry. We didn't know you'd be home." But Dad wasn't having it. He dropped the toolbox, and it hit the floor with this deafening clang. I could see the vein in his forehead popping out, and I knew this was about to go sideways. So, there I was, wrapped in a blanket, yelling at my dad to calm down while Jake was fumbling with his jeans, looking like a deer in headlights. My dad's face was beet red, and he started stomping toward Jake, who was still half naked and trying to back up toward the corner of my room. "You little punk," Dad roared, and I swear I've never heard his voice hit that octave before. I jumped between them, clutching the blanket to my chest, shouting, "Dad, stop. It's not his fault." But Dad wasn't hearing me. He was in full-on protective mode, and Jake was the target. Jake, to his credit, kept trying to apologize. "Sir, I swear, I didn't mean any disrespect," he said, hands up like he was surrendering. But Dad wasn't in a talking mood. He lunged forward, and I managed to shove myself in front of him just enough to slow him down. That's when things got chaotic. Jake, panicking, tripped over the edge of my rug and stumbled backward, crashing into my desk. My lamp toppled over, and a bunch of books went flying, but Dad didn't even flinch. He just kept coming. I grabbed his arm, screaming, "Dad, please, you're scaring me." That finally made him pause, but only for a second. He glared at Jake, who was now on the floor, trying to untangle himself from the mess of my desk chair. "Get up," Dad growled, and Jake scrambled to his feet, still clutching his jeans. I thought maybe Dad was going to kick him out, and I'd have to deal with the fallout later, but then Jake made a rookie mistake. He tried to sidestep toward the door, and Dad took it as some kind of challenge. He grabbed Jake by the shoulder, spun him around, and shoved him hard against the wall. I heard the thud of Jake's back hitting the drywall, and he let out this choked grunt. "Dad, stop it!" I shrieked, pulling at his arm again, but he shook me off like I was nothing. Jake, wide-eyed, tried to push back, just enough to get some space, but that was it. Dad's military instincts kicked in, and he swung. His fist connected with Jake's jaw, and I heard this sickening crack. Jake staggered, blood already trickling from his lip, and I lost it. "What are you doing?" I yelled, shoving Dad with everything I had. He stumbled back, finally looking at me like he'd snapped out of whatever trance he was in. Jake slid down the wall, dazed, holding his face, and I dropped to my knees next to him, sobbing. "Are you okay?" "Oh my God, Jake, say something." He mumbled something incoherent, and that's when I saw his eyes starting to swell. Dad just stood there, breathing hard, like he didn't even know what he'd done. Jake was crumpled against the wall, blood dripping from his mouth, and I was shaking, tears streaming down my face as I tried to check on him. "Jake, talk to me, please," I begged, brushing his hair back to see how bad it was. His jaw was already swelling, and his left eye looked like it was bruising fast. He groaned, "I'm okay," but it didn't sound convincing. My dad just stood there, fists still clenched, breathing like a bull. I whipped around and screamed at him. What is wrong with you? He didn't do anything. Dad's face softened for a split second, like maybe he realized he'd gone too far, but then it hardened again. He shouldn't have been here, he muttered, like that justified everything. I ignored him and focused on Jake. We need to get you to a doctor, I said, grabbing my phone from the nightstand. My hands were trembling so bad I could barely dial 911. Dad finally spoke up. You don't need to call anyone. He'll be fine. I shot him a look that could have melted steel and snapped. He's bleeding, Dad. You hit him. Jake tried to wave me off, mumbling, it's not that bad. But then he winced and clutched his jaw, and I wasn't taking chances. I called an ambulance, gave them the address, and told Jake to stay still. The next 15 minutes were a blur. Mom came home right as the paramedics arrived. She'd gotten a ride back early and walked in to see Jake on the floor, me in a blanket, and Dad pacing like a caged animal. What the hell happened? She yelled, and I just burst into tears again. The paramedics checked Jake out, said he might have a concussion and a fractured jaw, and loaded him onto a stretcher. I threw on a hoodie and followed them out, ignoring Dad's grumbling about how this didn't need to escalate. Mom stayed behind, and I could hear her laying into him as I left. At the hospital, they confirmed Jake had a mild concussion and a hairline fracture in his jaw. He's been there since Saturday night, wired shut for a few weeks while it heals. I've been visiting him every day, bringing him milkshakes since he can't eat solids. He's taking it like a champ, even joking about how he should have locked the door. But I feel awful. Dad hasn't apologized. Mom says he's stubborn but feels guilty. I'm not ready to talk to him yet. Jake's mom, though, is furious and keeps hinting at pressing charges. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I'm stuck replaying it all in my head. How did a chill day turn into this? I just wanted time with my boyfriend, and now he's sipping protein shakes through a straw because my dad lost his mind. Reddit, what do I even do now?